Hello, Nigeria, and thanks for keeping this scheduled appointment with Newsline. I am Elizabeth Omori. Our regular pilot, Claire Adelabu Abdurazak, is unavoidably absent, so I will be flying the plane on her behalf tonight. And stories to keep you glued coming shortly. We have a feature on Zamzam water in Mecca, which we hear speaks to the faith of Muslims across the globe, and you will get to know more about it. While water is said to be life, many nutritionists always advise on eating right and practicing healthy habits that may lead to a ripe old age. Danwake, a delicacy in northern Nigeria, is said to enhance longevity. We will serve you this delicacy in real time. I guess this is an addition to the menu for all the foodies. Yes. Oftentimes, families have identifications. Some trade, some are into fashion, while some music or even dance. What exactly is your own family known for? Well, we have a story from Lokoja where a family of boxers used their unique talent for brisk business. Also on our lineup is a tale of two friends with a tragic end. This story poses the question, who really is your friend? Or better still, your bestie? So much for you tonight, but we shall begin with the story of the day. And Olajide Bello will be serving us. Jide.
Many thanks, Elizabeth, and welcome to the news segment. President Bola Tinubu earlier today addressed Nigerians calling on protesting youth to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue. The president says rather than shutting out the oxygen of economic recovery that the policies of his administration are already injecting, citizens must look past their fears and embrace hope anew. State House correspondent Adeniyi Taiwo reports.
Pictures, voices and narratives in the last 4 days have been that of violent agitation and wanton destruction following the wave of protest that swept across many parts of the country.
I speak to you today with a heavy heart and sense of responsibility.
Addressing the protest in a special broadcast, President Bola Tinubu expressed sadness over the development, noting that the involvement and unfortunate death of young Nigerians, as reported in several states, along with destruction of public facilities, have all served to set the nation back.
I commiserate with the families and relations of those who have died in the protest. We must stop further bloodshed, violence and destruction. As the president of this country, I must ensure public order in line with the constitutional oath to protect the lives and property of every citizen. Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue, which I have always acceded to at the slightest opportunity.
Democratic good governance is key to actualize its vision of a just and prosperous nation where each person may enjoy peace and meaningful livelihood, the president says. While calling the attention of Nigerians to the poor and unsustainable state of the economy before he took the saddle, President Tinubu again reminded them that the removal of fuel subsidy and few other of his policies, though painful, are necessary to rescue the economy from those that impede its growth. The current pain has its gains, as the president also shared some of the efforts of his administration on infrastructure development and resources utilization drive.
Notably, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and Sokoto-Badagry Highway projects will open up 16 connecting states, creating thousands of jobs and boosting economic output through trade, tourism, and cultural integration. Our once declining oil and gas industry is experiencing a resurgence on the back of the reforms I announced in May 2024 to address the gaps in the Petroleum Industry Act. Last month, we increased our oil production to 1.61 million barrels per day, and our gas assets are receiving the attention they deserve. Investors are coming back, and we have already seen 2 foreign direct investments signed over $500 million since then.
The youths are the arrowheads of the protest, and in seeking their understanding, the president notes that they are the intended beneficiaries of some of his initiatives, including the Student Loan Scheme, the Consumer Credit Corporation with a 200 billion naira fund, and Credit Corps, among others, set up to push their dreams.
Additionally, we have secured $620 million under the Digital and Creative Enterprises, IDIs, a program to empower our young people, creating millions of IT and technical jobs that will make them globally competitive. This program, including the 3 million technical talent scheme, unfortunately, one of digital centers was vandalized during the protests in Kano. What a shame.
With the 70,000 naira new minimum wage signed into law last week, alongside other ongoing interventions in housing, incentives to farmers, and democratization of resources to the subnationals, the president urges Nigerians to remain hopeful and not give in to despair.
My dear Nigerians, especially our youths, I have heard you loud and clear. I understand the pain and the frustration that drive these protests, and I want to assure you that our government is committed to listening and addressing the concerns of our citizens. But we must not let violence and destruction tear our nation apart. We must work together to build a brighter future. A lot of work has gone into stabilizing our economy, and I must stay focused on ensuring that the benefits reached every single Nigerian as we promised.
With a strong emphasis on the need for safety and security of all Nigerians, the president charged security operatives to maintain peace, law and order in the country in adherence to necessary conventions on human rights to which Nigeria is a signatory. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
Joining me in the studio to x-ray President Tinubu's special broadcast is Dr. George Bakai, a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to NTA News.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's quickly set the ball rolling. The president this morning addressed the nation after the protest that turned out to be not so pleasant. What do you make of the speech?
Thank you again for having me. I believe the president of this great country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, made a pretty fantastic speech today. He showed tremendous humility, compassion, and he said he was truly pained by the loss of lives, and wanting destruction of properties, and he did commiserate with families, of individuals that lost their lives. I think he showed a lot of empathy, and I think he really addressed the Nigerian people and particularly the youth, and made them to understand that he had them. He has heard what they said, and that he was going to work, to fulfill their aspiration. He called for dialogue, which he had called for earlier on before this protest, commenced. So I think it was a pretty good speech, and he used that opportunity to discuss, some of the lofty achievements, that his administration had been able to do in the past 14 months.
All right, Dr. Bakai, talking about the developmental strides which the President itemized in his special broadcast this morning, he also made some explanations, a long speech since after assuming power. What do you think of some of these arguments and points raised by the President?
Well, I sincerely believe that the President made a pretty compelling argument in respect of some of the achievements of his administration in the past 14 months. He indicated that Nigeria is well aware of where we started from, that the economy was almost like, bleeding before he got in. And in that respect, he was able to, enact bold and prudent policies, such as the elimination of the fuel subsidy, as well as the extrication of the multiple exchange rate to single exchange rate. And everybody in Nigeria is well aware, that Nigeria was losing a lot of money in respect of both the multiple exchange rate as well as the fuel subsidy. It was only full of Nigerians that were benefiting, from all these policies. And then the President also, talked about that his administration in the interim was laying the foundation and structures, for a great economy of this country, and he talked eloquently about some strides like the student loan. Student loan, as we know, is key. Education is the foundation of every society. And it is quite obvious that most Nigerians are unable to, send their children to school. So this student loan is a very key policy. And he indicated that so far, 45.6 billion naira has been put into this student, loan. And it's quite obvious that even students currently are already taking advantage of this student loan. He also talked about the area of infrastructure. The current administration has made a lot of impact in the area of infrastructure. He mentioned the Calabar-Lagos Coastal Highway, which went across about 6 or 7 states. At the same time, he talked about the Badagry-Sokoto Highway, which crossed about 9 states. So these are the areas the President talked about. And he talked about the increase in revenue since he came into office, 14 months ago. That so far, there has been an increase of about, I think, 9.1 trillion naira in the area of revenue, probably because of the blockages that his administration has engaged in, as well as extrication of ghost workers. So a lot has been done. He talked about the issue of the, compressed natural gas, to power transportation in this great country. Talked about the Consumer Credit Corporation, in respect of about 200 billion naira to help Nigerians, acquire essential products. So a lot has been done in this country. And the President spoke about it eloquently to Nigerians.
Okay, many thanks, Dr. Bakai. Just your final notes now, like maybe just a sentence. What next will you advise both the protesters and government at all levels, since their call for a better governance cuts across all levels? Just one sentence.
Okay. I believe the presidential speech today was very significant, and the President made it abundantly clear to Nigerians, particularly the protesters, that he is ready for dialogue. So it's now incumbent on the protesters to organize their leaders and enter into a dialogue with the government, which I believe in the long run, our President has listening ears. He's a very compassionate person. So I believe in the long run, all these things will be resolved amicably and Nigeria will become great again.
All right, many thanks, political and public affairs analyst, Dr. George Bakai, for your thoughts on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, moving on. Against the backdrop of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's nationwide broadcast, some groups on the platform of the governing All Progressives Congress, APC, have aligned with the government, saying the president's speech reflected on the realities of the day's economy and commended the ongoing reforms under the Renewed Hope agenda, which are already yielding desired results. Political correspondent Abubakar Akwanga reports.
The APC presidential campaign office came alive 14 months after the formation of the Tinubu's presidency. But 3 days into the nationwide protest, these groups believed the presidential broadcast answered to many questions and put issues in the right perspective.
I want to commend the president of our great country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for the giant stride that he has achieved in the last 13 months, and again to call on our youth to please give peace a chance. To allow the presidency to properly settle down and address some of the challenges that our youth are agitating for.
There is no public outing that Asiwaju has done that he has not identified, acknowledged the suffering of the people.
Rationalizing some of the highlights from the president's speech, speakers said removal of fuel subsidy and other critical reforms were difficult decisions the government has to take, but with a long-term impact.
That fuel subsidy has to go. But again, Mr. President has introduced more innovation into the fuel subsidy crisis.
He has just spoken our mind. And that we understand there must be hardship. And during the campaign of Asiwaju, he told us there will be hardship, no doubt. And that is a sacrifice to pay for the change we are expecting in the nation.
The groups, however, appealed to youth occupying major streets in the country to vacate and embrace dialogue for the parties concerned to broker truce and pursue a national agenda for all. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu's call to the nation urging protesters to suspend further protests and embrace dialogue has been applauded by the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. In a statement by the Executive Director of CISLAC, Awal Musa Rafsanjani, the organization acknowledges the President's recognition of the grievances driving these protests and his commitment to listening to and addressing Nigerian citizens' concerns. Rafsanjani says, with President Tinubu's emphasis on the need for unity and collective efforts in reshaping the nation's future, all Nigerians, irrespective of age, political affiliation, tribe or religion, should work together for a better Nigeria. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, says all institutions should now or never disclose candidates illegally admitted prior to 2017 whose records are in their system within the next 1 month, beginning from 1st August 2024. JAMB's head of public affairs, Fabian Benjamin, disclosed this at a media conference in Abuja. JAMB reiterates that any admission purportedly given prior to 2017 will no longer be recognized or condoned unless disclosed within this 1 month window. This move is aimed at curbing illegal admissions and falsification of records while ensuring compliance with the provisions of the cards.
Quite embarrassing. Some institutions have even been found to backdate such recent admission to 2020 to fit within the time frame of CUII. Consequently, the board is terminating the aspect of CUII process which allow completely unregistered candidates without registration number to be introduced into the system. CARS remains and is the only authorized platform for admission.
The board further expressed concern over a new trend of a strange admissions practice labeled as daily part-time DPT by certain polytechnics and top-up TU by some universities, stressing that such programs were approved by the National Board for Technical Education (NBT) for National Universities Commission (NUC), and both are noted to be alien to the education system in Nigeria. And troops of the Nigerian Armed Forces eliminates 572 terrorists, arrested 790 suspected terrorists and other criminal elements, while 479 kidnapped victims were rescued in the last 7 days. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says that the troops also recovered 440 weapons and 10,589 ammunitions. Troops in the South-South Gate region have re-strategized operations towards curbing oil theft and boost crude oil production in view of the nationwide protest. Major General Buba says the armed forces are working alongside other security agencies to curb threats emerging from the protests. The Nigerian Navy is joining forces with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and other key oil and gas and maritime stakeholders to ramp up Nigeria's oil production. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports that the gathering is aimed at harnessing a whole-of-society approach to ensure the security of Nigeria's maritime sector, thereby facilitating the seamless implementation of President Tinubu's directive to boost crude oil production from 1.5 million to 2 million barrels per day. The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Gala, set the tone for the meeting by emphasizing the need for a united fleet approach to tackling the myriad security challenges plaguing the nation's maritime domain, stressing that as guardians of the sea, the Navy will work with all stakeholders to create a safe harbor for oil production and transportation.
Of course, you know that one of the key goals of this administration is to promote development of the blue economy. And that implies making the environment conducive for operators to operate. And ease of doing business is part of it, making sure that we do not constitute obstacles to the operators. Rather, we should contribute to them being able to perform their duties and produce optimally.
And a lot are presently going on in the industry right now, and we hope that we will sustain this. We'll be able to achieve our target of 2 million barrels per day toward the end of the year.
The meeting is expected to delve into finding a watertight security framework to tackle the present issues of piracy, oil theft and vandalism, which have long been weighing down the nation's economic progress. And multiple consignments of illicit drugs concealed in tins of baby food and clothes going to the United States and the United Kingdom have been intercepted by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. Salwa Khalil Ibrahim brings details of the weekly report of the agency's activities.
No less than 36 parcels of strong strain of cannabis concealed in cartons of branded Cerelac baby food scheduled for the United Kingdom were recovered at an export shed of Lagos Airport on Wednesday, 31st July 2024. Follow-up investigation led to the arrest of the sender of the cargo in Oyo State. In the same vein, 5 different shipments of opioids and other psychoactive substances such as promethazine, pentazocine, diazepam, tramadol and morphine concealed in clothes and other items meant for export to the US and UK were equally intercepted by NDLEA operatives on the 29th July 2024 at a logistics company in Lagos. Meanwhile, the agency operatives at the Tin Can port in Lagos on Friday, 2nd August, recovered 77 packages of Canadian loud from the body compartment of 4 vehicles imported from Canada during a joint examination with men of the Customs Service and other stakeholders. 2 suspects were arrested in connection with the shipments. With the same drive, commands and formations of the agency across the country continue their war against drug abuse. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, NTA News.
And President Bola Tinubu extends his warm congratulations to Abdul Samad Rabiu on his birthday. Abdul Samad Rabiu is the founder and chairman of Buharis Group. President Tinubu commends Rabiu for his landmark contributions to the growth of domestic enterprise and the creation of opportunities for many young Nigerian professionals, and reaffirms his stance that the nation's economic advancement is implicit in public-private sector collaboration. The president wishes the foremost business leader good health and success in his endeavors. Presidential election results in Venezuela has been further disputed by the United States as U.S. 2024 general elections heat up. Gullo Mohammed brings us details of these and other stories on the Global Update.
The Secretary of State said there is overwhelming evidence that Venezuela's opposition won the recent presidential election. In a statement, Antony Blinken said it was clear Edmundo Gonzalez had won the most votes, despite incumbent President Nicolas Maduro declaring a disputed victory. Blinken said, in the overwhelming evidence, it is clear to the United States and most importantly to the Venezuelan people that Edmundo Gonzalez won the most votes.
We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people. It's critical that every vote be counted fairly and transparently.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump attacked his political opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, during a campaign rally in Atlanta, Georgia. He claimed she was a radical trans activist and assured that he will make America affordable again while speaking of inflation.
They are a threat to democracy. They've been saying that about me for 7 years. I think I got shot because of that, okay? People said, he's a threat to democracy. No, I'm the one that is saving democracy.
This rally in Atlanta is the first jointly held by former President Donald Trump and the Republican vice presidential candidate James David Vance. Authorities also said that one soldier was killed and another wounded, while the rest of the dead were civilians. Witnesses reported an explosion followed by gunfire. A witness named Mahmoud Muallim said he saw an attacker wearing an explosive vest moments before the man blew himself up next to the Beachview Hotel. Muallim said some of his friends who were with him at the hotel were killed and others were wounded. Reports say the group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for this attack. Gullo Mohammed, NTA.
President Bola Tinubu warmly congratulates the Tigers on qualifying for the quarter-final of the women's basketball at the 2024 Paris Olympics. The Tigers will be the first African team in basketball to play in the quarter-finals at the Olympics. The president commends the team for their uncommon demonstration of resilience, teamwork and diligence. President Tinubu also commends the coach and managers of the team for their dutifulness and dedication. The president enjoins the brave Tigers not to rest on their oars until the final victory is won. President Tinubu assures the team and the entire Nigerian contingent at the 2024 Olympics of the federal government's support. Now let's talk sports. Spadi Adelaye is standing by to update us with the latest from the 2024 Olympics in Paris. Spadi, how did Team Nigeria fare today in Paris?
Well, Olajide, it was a good day in the office for Team Nigeria. Let's begin with basketball as Nigeria beat FIBA World number 5 Canada 79-70 points to become the first African male or female team to ever qualify for basketball quarterfinal in the history of the games. The Tigers continued their run at the games after beating FIBA World number 3 Australia 75-62 points in their opening game of Group B before they slipped to a 75-54 points loss to host France in their second game. Coach Rina Wakama coached the Tigers growled back in their last group match with 18-18 in the first quarter. They slipped to a 19-23 in the second before recording 23-5 and 19-24 in the final quarters. Right, let's move now to athletics as Nigeria's Favour Philly shrugged off a remission from the 100 meters at the Olympics as she qualified for the semi-finals of the women's 200 meters. And of course, she did that as she clocked a season's best time of 22.24 seconds to finish first in Heat 6 of the first round of qualifications on Sunday at the Stade de France. Ophili is set to compete in the semi-final heat at 8 in the evening on Monday. Similarly, Nigeria's Samuel Ogaze ran a new personal best of 44.50 seconds to book an automatic spot in the semi-finals of the men's 400 meters, closing in very fast to finish second and earning his place in the semis. He becomes the first Nigerian male quarter-miler to qualify for the 400-meter semi-finals at the Olympics in 24 years. His compatriot, Chidi Okeze, finished fourth in heat 1 of men's 400 meters, clocking a time of 45.52 seconds. He will return for the repechage for a chance to make the semi-finals. Meanwhile, the duo of Konyisola Ajayi and Favour Asher finished sixth in their respective 100 meters semi-finals on Sunday evening and missed out on qualification for the final. Same was the story for Nigeria's Shadio Latoye, who competed in Group B of women's hammer throw, finishing 14th with a mark of 66.41 meters. And of course, the cycling now. Earlier on Sunday, Esel Okpeseraye became the first Nigerian ever to compete in the cycling event at the Olympics. Competing in the cycling road event, Okpeseraye did not finish her event and had a no-time recorded for her. She is, however, not out of the Olympics yet, as she will be representing Nigeria in the track cycling event. Finally, let's talk tennis, as an emotional Novak Djokovic produced a stunning display to defeat rival Carlos Alcaraz 7-6, 7-6 in the tennis match of the year to win his first Olympic gold medal and complete a career golden slam. He joins Serena Williams, Rafael Nadal, Andrea Agassi, and Steffi Graf as just the 5th player to complete the career golden slam of all 4 Grand Slam titles and Olympic singles gold. Better late than never. And of course, that's a bit on sports. It's back to Olajide.
All right, many thanks, Abadi Adele, there for our sport package. And I'm sure Elizabeth is about to let the cat out of the bag, but that will be after this break.